Tyson, what's good, man? How you doing? It's good to see you.
Hey, nice to meet you, Chad.
Yeah, dude, you were just telling me the noise right now on LinkedIn
Yeah.
is it's like such a weird,
Mm,
dead, hollow noise. And so
yeah.
you said, "Oh, okay, we connected over one of my comments." And
Right.
what cracks me up is like the comment is just so tongue in cheek. I don't want to use the word backhand, but off the cuff. It's just real, and like real
Yeah.
is working. So what are you seeing now? Like, what's
Sure.
the noise that you're seeing?
Well, I mean, there's so many pieces to this. I mean, just with AI alone, with like what tools can do now, there's that, and so that's the flashy stuff that you see. The shiny object stuff.
Yeah.
You'll see all the posts like comment Claude code and get the playbook. Like this is the Grail
Hey,
playbook.
ManyChat is the worst thing that happened to all
Yeah.
social media. Yeah.
Totally. And so there's that, and it's like it's hard. I'm in a space right now where I'm trying to delete more and remove so I can
Mm.
find signals better. And with everything, with prospecting, with my business, but with
Yeah, yeah.
also just trying to see who's talking about the real stuff because it's not as complex as we're making it. I think
Yeah, I
tools,
agree.
systems, and all this, and all the technology has made stuff much more complex than it really needs to be.
Tell me about the signals. So, because you said you saw a comment of mine, but what are the signals that really jump out to you on the prospect side or business
I
side?
mean, there's so much of the generated comments now with
Mhm.
AI, you can just tell because it's like too complex. But when there's like
Mhm.
an authentic, and I'd have to look back to see the exact comment, but just somebody who gets like what's
Mhm.
happening with RevOps go to market right
Yeah.
now. I mean, it's all converging to this point. I feel like we're getting to this like this
Yeah.
space of like this universal um sort of unified context layer with everything where like
Yeah.
data is finally going to be able to be used. And so I feel like that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And people that get to see that forest for the trees, I think are the people that I gravitate to who are thinking about
Isn't
it.
that weird though that like it's I've been doing this I've been doing retail integration since 2012, and then that segued into sales operations. And even back then, everyone needed a different name for it. Like no one liked to say that they were sales ops. So
Yeah,
revenue
yeah,
operations was kind of a buzzword back then. But you're right. Like I've noticed we're really in this it's like all culminated now where all of a
yeah,
sudden RevOps is just exploding as a word.
sure.
And I hate the posts are like
Yeah,
RevOps is not this, it's that. And
it's right.
what you're misunderstanding. I'm like, dang, like
Yeah.
people have been going to market for years now. Like that part hasn't changed. So what have you noticed over the years? Like why is it so trendy now to just talk
Yeah.
about RevOps as this and not that?
I mean, there's so much to that, and I really like the fact that you're from sales ops because I feel like that's like the tip of the spear, and that's really where all the
Yeah.
true action is. There's so much, I don't know, call it
Well,
pageantry.
people are calling that field ops now, and I'm
Right,
offended. I'm like,
no,
what
I
does
know.
that even mean, field ops? Like, I'm like, they almost like lowly degrade it. Oh, you're field ops. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
these are the
yeah.
guys making the money.
No, I know. And so there's like there's different pieces to this, but like I mean, I think that how I see it right now is it's the noise is like um the lack of proper signals with behind I'm getting caught up here for a minute. You can edit this
No,
out, right?
yeah, take your
Yeah.
time. But like,
Yeah.
there's no, but it's not real. I think is what you're getting at. It's
Yeah.
it's like posturing.
Totally.
It
Yeah.
is. I don't like the word. I don't want to say virtue signaling, but it's like
No,
someone's
there's
trying to signal
yeah.
some access to business, and then I dig in and I'm like, bro, you don't know what you're talking about. It's weird.
Right, and I think with I see it the most with the tools, like, I don't if you follow nothing against these guys, but, like, the Cold IQ, all the Michelle Lee, they're great guys, I love those guys, but, like,
Mm,
it's all they've created such an amazing system, right? They're
mm.
generating, like, 7 mil, a year off of just agency stuff, and, like, they're just
Yeah.
doing the go-to-market Claude Code thing now, which a lot of people are doing.
Yeah.
The go-to-market engineer, the forward deployed engineer. That play is totally legit. I have no not trying to throw shade on that at all, but it is so flash in the pan, like with this stuff. Like last year it was N8N. Everybody was talking about workflows, and you would
Yes.
just see those workflows
I feel
everywhere.
late to N8N, actually. I
Yeah,
kept seeing it and thinking like, "Oh, I can't pronounce it." I just skipped
yeah,
it,
yeah.
but
I know.
once
And
I
it's
dove into Clay, that started coming up and I'm like, "Oh, this is
totally, and
impressive."
it's almost useless. So it's like But the bigger thing for revenue, like the one something I keep thinking about is like we need like a standardization of language. So like I
Yeah.
feel like we don't have unified language, so everybody's talking about something differently, right? Whether it's the
Yeah.
reporting side, the attribution, whether it's all the KPIs, nobody has a standard language, and I feel like we're all talking about the
Yeah.
same thing in different language, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah. Okay, well, you're a special guy. I want to talk about that for a minute because you uh, are an architect, right? You identify
Yes.
as an architect in the
Yep.
market. Okay, so people would call me a sales operations manager or a revenue operations manager.
Mhm.
Recently, I was consulting with one of the billion-dollar. I almost said its name. I'm not allowed to say its name
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
NDA, but one of the billion-dollar AI companies.
Wow.
We'll call them big AI.
Sure.
And there was an architect on their
Mm.
partner operations rollout. And I recognized his value, but the stakeholders kept stumbling over the way he thought through things. And he
Mm.
wasn't what you would call like hands on keyboard. And he would
Sure.
constantly get this whole like, man, you sure sound a whole lot like an architect. I'm like, yeah, well, that's why you guys are paying $400 an hour for this guy.
Yeah.
So help the audience understand what is the architect between like, and you can disparage me like all the managers out there.
No.
What's an architect but between like one of the guys that's out there like that's just a RevOps manager or sales ops person
Right.
at large?
Yeah, I mean, I love to just, to me, how I describe it is the forest for the trees. You have to be able to
Mm,
hold like all the pieces, right? And so like when I think of revenue architecture, it's not just CRM, automation
mm,
platform integrations, AI. It's like infrastructure, it's like web, it's like
mm,
domain, it's like DNS, it's like IT stuff.
mm,
It's also like ownership, which is the thing that's
mm,
like the hill that I die on, and I think we're
mm.
gonna agree on this. Like, there's no ownership for a lot of
Yeah,
this stuff, whether it be tools, departments. So you have to kind of hold all that stuff in your head, but
yeah,
also think of it in terms of user experience and user interface, right? It's really a customer
mm,
experience. You're building all this so everyone uses it. Because like the thing that I have seen over the past decade has been adoption. There's all
yeah,
these ways you can force people to use tools, but if they don't use it, they're just
mm.
creating what I call the shadow CRM, which is like spreadsheets, right? We all know that that's the reality of it.
Yes, yeah,
So you
yeah,
have to be able to hold all of that in your space. That's how I understand the architect. And then you
yeah.
have to understand the specifics and the details and the engineering level side.
Mm.
But it's just to be able to hold all that stuff in a crucible.
Well, let's do a
Yeah.
all right, so two RevOps people walk in a room
Yeah.
and there's a CFO and a CEO there maybe, and the
Yeah.
company's $120 million
Sure.
whatever, and this is an example of one of mine. They were selling molecules,
Yeah.
physical goods, liquid container
Sure. Sure.
overseas,
Yeah.
making 120 million a year. We're
Yeah.
gonna ask two different questions
Okay.
when we walk in there, like because we think differently. So you as the architect, I really want people to unpack this because I don't think enough people get to
Sure.
experience a real architect.
Mhm.
You're sitting down with the CEO and CFO. What are some of the first questions that come to your mind?
Sure. I would ask about the departments and then the ownership, the leadership in each one of the departments. I'd ask for the entire
Mm,
organ. I want the org chart, everything, like human resource,
yeah,
everything. Because if they don't
yeah.
have that, they're not going to have the proper buckets. You get this weird
Okay,
thing.
let's pause there because I
Yeah, yeah,
want you to correct me
yeah.
because I sat down and I was like, let me see how are you guys making money?
Mhm.
How many deals you have? Let me see what the pipeline looks like and where is it breaking.
Sure.
So it's like I skipped a bunch of steps, right? Because I just
Right.
want I'm just like I just let me go fix something. So
No, I
what? So
know.
talk about the architecture lens in there. Like where does
Yeah.
that get someone in trouble?
Well, right. I have to see the departments first. I see, they're whatever we call them silos because they are, right?
Yeah,
And then we can get to the next piece, which is like, well, who owns revenue? Because like, here's the thing to go back to what we said. This idea of RevOps is pretty new, and there's a lot of companies that don't prioritize revenue generation. They play
yeah.
business, right? You know this, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they think they do. That's
right.
100%. That's
And
it's so good. Yeah.
so if someone
They're
doesn't
and they're really just shipping product or something.
Correct. So if
Yeah.
someone doesn't own the pipeline, the revenue, and you see this all the time, oh, maybe it's the VP of sales, maybe it's the CMO,
Mm.
maybe it's the CFO, maybe it's the CEO. If they don't know that you get to that pretty quick when you see the org chart because you'll see how
That's so
messy it is.
good.
They'll have those invented roles, like
You know what? In that back to that same example, the CEO was said that he was stepping in as lead sales. I sort of get it. They were a PE
Yeah,
company.
that happens a lot.
He had massive equity on the line there, but the PE firm sees it a little bit differently. They think they own that number. And
Sure.
then also the PE firm is putting a lot of pressure on the CFO. She thinks she owns that number.
Right.
So like as the operator, I was in this weird jam where it's like,
Dude.
I'm looking at a real number. The CEO's like, no, we're going to make this. The CFO's like, it's got to report this. I'm like, that's a batshit crazy number, Jen. Like, we're never going to hit that. And then the VP of sales is in the middle. I'm like, what are you leading, dude? Like,
I
what do you
love that.
do?
That's like my thesis with it. I call it the ownership vacuum in ops for lack
Yeah.
I right? So it's like OVO. It's easy. It's like the Drake reference, right? If there's any young people
Uh,
listening to the podcast and they like Drake. But it's something, it's there and nobody owns it. And so then that's where it all falls off. And then everyone, oh, we're gonna build it in Salesforce. We're gonna build it in HubSpot. Oh, we bought this new tool. We have Orange Slice. Oh, we built it in Cloud Code. Everyone's got their own source of truth, right?
yeah.
And it all
Yeah.
falls apart, you know?
Yeah. Um, if is there low hanging fruit
Yeah.
in that scenario? There's a VP of sales, there's a CEO, a CFO, and all of them are terrified of the PE. Like,
Yep.
what and maybe like what's deliverables from an architect as you're
Yeah.
iterating through a process?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, that thing is changing all the time with outcomes, right? So first of all, you have to start. I mean, I always start with the data. You have to. I think that's like the elephant in the room. Nobody wants to deal with the data, but
Mhm.
you have to, right? You're going to have to come to terms with the duplicates. You're going to have to come to
So
terms
many
with all the
duplicates.
and it's the stuff that hasn't changed in 10 years, but people think it's different now.
Okay, so I'm so sorry I keep interrupting you, but it's
No, no.
just so good. Like this one case study,
Yeah.
they made 120 million
Yeah.
a year. All of that revenue came from 200 customers. And
Yeah.
if nobody's looked under the hood of a business, that's mind blowing. That's a great business.
That's a
200
real
customers,
business.
you making
Yep.
okay, but they had 2,000 account
Yeah.
records in the CRM. And now for me, that's a small number. Like I've done this in enterprise
That's a
scales,
very small.
but still I would look at the finance analyst who was just cool with this. I'm like, no, I'm not cool with this.
No,
That's
I know.
crazy. Why do you have so much? How, when you report up to see the lion's share, that one partner that's shipping 80% of the business, like that's coming through across 12 different accounts. Why doesn't that bother you? But he would do some gymnastics in a spreadsheet
That's it. Yeah.
later to get the number. So can you solve that? Because that's actually it's a lot more
Yeah.
complicated
No,
than I
it
think
is.
people have an appetite to go fix.
So those are some serious blind spots, which I
Yeah.
cut what I could, right? But then I mean, you don't know what you're getting into. I love the people that I'm all for frameworks, right? And we all have them, right? But I love
Mm,
the people that are like, it's just this. You come in, you're like,
yeah.
you never know. Everyone is going to be a new. Oh, it's a custom ERP that's backfilling
100%.
the CRM, and if you change this, it breaks the entire ordering system and whatever. We've all seen. So you never know until you actually get in the hood, and you have to
Yeah.
see the whole thing. And this is the thing that then once you have that figured out, I want to see everything. And I don't know if
Yeah.
it's the same for you. Like, I need the keys to everything. I need everything.
Well, yes and no. And I think that goes back on our thread about like the difference between an architect and an operator. I think that I tell people I've got like a loyal dog quality, and
Yes.
but that's not always a good thing, right? Like
Mm,
if I know which leader I'm allied to, which is typically sales,
mm,
and I'll sit down with the CRO and I'll say things like, what's raising to your level or getting on your plate that shouldn't be there, and
mm,
how can I take it off? And man, I will go get it with singular focus.
mm.
And if that means that I'm leaving a silo problem alone for a little bit, we had a company I was with acquired. They got up to like 60 million through acquisitions. Well, the San Diego team was like, you couldn't get any of their data, All right, not my problem in that moment. So
Right.
I think an architect needs to re-steer that direction some. Like you'd have to ally with those leaders and say, Chad's going to go sick whatever you
Yep.
tell him to go sick, but really we should rethink this some from a priority
Totally.
level.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. But here's I agree with you, and I know the realities, right? But if there is this whole, like, I have been in organizations, you work with them for 2 years, and one day they're like, oh, there's also this other system that
Mm.
creates records, and you're like, what is this? And they're like, yeah, it's like been around for like, and nobody really owns it, and like, but that's the whole point, is that that's
Yeah.
the data. You're like, I mean, you've been in the orgs, right, where you're like, why do these duplicates keep getting created? And you're like,
Yes.
what is the
Yeah,
thing?
yeah.
You're running the logs in Salesforce trying to find it. You
Yeah.
can't.
Why did Marketo just write like 100,000 people records? Yeah, I don't.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like I get into the details that I can see stuff. I'm like, how come you see all the different APIs connected to
Mm.
Salesforce and HubSpot? You're like, why are they doing, you know? So you just don't know, and that's fine. It's just if you start building in that path, like you said, and don't know about the other, you're kind of creating
Mm.
another problem. And as much as I
Yeah.
like to say, like, yeah, you can still do that and make change, and it's probably going to be good. Until you get that comprehensive picture, like
Yeah.
we like to
Yeah.
talk about 360 degrees, a data,
Yeah.
uh, I don't know. It's like it's a tough
Okay.
call.
Okay. Well, tell the audience what you do,
Mhm.
who you serve, and in what capacity in the market. Because what I want to get into next is like
Sure.
the friction
Mm,
you bump up against when you do try the right way to do things, really.
sure. Yeah.
So what are you doing? How are you going to market, and who do you serve, and how do you help them?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's shifted over the years, but it's really like it's the scaled SMB, for lack of a better
Okay.
word, like 30 to 100 mil. It's
Mm-hmm.
sort of agnostic to industry. I feel like I go deep and I can go wide, like because I
Yeah.
feel like that's what I do. I see a lot of other
Yeah. Yeah.
people just focusing on this one thing, the sales. I try to do the big.
I'm agnostic to industry, but I have found that some industries are just more fun than others. So I try
Yeah.
to like I never want to do life sciences again. And I'm
Well,
sorry,
that's
all
so
life
funny
sciences
because
people. It's
I have a lot of biotech and life, and it's not.
I saw one of your posts and I made a comment about my life sciences relationship. Yeah, but it's funny because they're on the cutting edge of some technology, but it's also so boring at the
It's
same
all
time.
R&D. They put all their money in
Yeah.
R&D, and so then when they're like,
Yeah.
"Hey,
Yeah.
what's your commercial motion?" And they're like, "There's one guy,
Yeah.
and he, so." But SaaS is way more fun, right? I've even worked with like B2C, B2B, like home builders and stuff, which I think is
Mm.
kind of cool, like construction.
I work a lot with them now. I don't charge them anything because they're like my friends, but
Yeah,
that's been fascinating for me. The owners of this building, the guy owns a sign shop. We
nice.
automated his whole customer support with
Yeah,
intercom. I'm like, bro, look, you just went from like lead to order,
yeah.
like
No,
in one
no,
chatbot.
that's the thing. So I love that what you said. That's the hardest thing, is like to be able to sell into that. So that's kind of where I
Yeah,
reside. I've worked for publicly traded companies. I've worked for that
yeah,
are around like half a billion or so. But I love when you can introduce what you just said, and a company like, dude, can we do this? And they're like, go for it. You can't quite do that as easily in bigger enterprise, right?
that's true.
So I love that, of like, I mean, it's the Wild West right now in a really, really great way. Like, or
I think
maybe
so.
the it's the gold rush on some level. Like, let's do.
Well, yeah, but that is both. That's interesting because well, you know what's terrifying to me is I actually think it's a dot-com bubble.
Yeah, I think it.
And
Yeah,
I was talking with a sales consultant named Monica in one of the other episodes, and we were talking about the Super Bowl commercials. I'm like, dang, you're probably not old enough to remember this. I was
yeah,
talking to Monica,
yeah.
but like there were sock puppets selling technology companies on
No,
Super Bowl commercials, and
I know.
80% of them went broke a couple years later.
No, I know. It's so wild. I mean, you have to hold all this stuff in to where it's going. I mean, you're going to see these platforms, they're going to go away as fast as
Yeah,
they're created, like a
yeah,
lot of the outbound stuff. I think
yeah,
it's like not performing right now. But yeah, I mean, I think like that's the most fun, is to go in and be let's make this efficient.
right.
Like I think I heard on one of your podcasts, you had like quote to cash, and like that hasn't changed. Like you can
No,
make a pretty awesome system now
yeah.
that does that. That's
Yeah.
all it
In
is.
fact, the sign guy, I know, I think he's between 2 and 6 million. I forgot, but I was like, look, dude, whiteboard, quote cash,
Yeah,
and
that's it.
what's touching every part of it. So what is so just to close that out though, are you an agency? Do you own your own company? Do you
Yeah.
consider yourself freelance?
Yeah, I own my own agency. I call myself I'm a
Okay.
solo operator, right? I mean, you
Okay.
can you can run a solo operator can, as you probably know. I don't know if you're solo yourself or you have, a team,
No,
but
I'm between jobs right now. I'm actually, I'd love to, I love talking to you and others like you because just I don't want to do a W-2 anymore. And I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
mind saying that publicly. But it's a hard nut to crack,
It
The
is.
W-2 pays really
It
well.
is and isn't. I know. It's funny. Like I like the hybrid, like the fractional stuff too, which I'm not opposed to. But I started my business 4 years ago. I came from a background in
Yeah.
IT, and I can't go back. Once you get a taste, like you get the highs and the lows, and you got to carry it all on your shoulder. But it's like
It's not that this like personal woe is me on some level, but like my personal friends, they
yep,
own $6 million businesses. But
yep,
that like those are your customers. These are like home services guys.
sure,
One is investment property builders, the sign guy, these commercial real
yeah.
estate guys.
HVAC companies,
And
they're
then
killing it, right? Yeah, yeah,
I see the IT services that sell to them. So I call them MSPs,
yep,
managed service
exactly.
providers.
hmm
And one was in here yesterday making a pitch like AI in your business, and it's such
It's crap.
hogwash what
Oh
he's
no, it's
telling
so
them.
bad. I know.
Yeah, and then he's gonna charge him 750 sign up fee and 1,000 a month. And I just look at my buddies. I'm like,
Don't do
I
it.
can't do it, Rory. I can't charge you 1,000 a month to give you headline news about Samsung's data breach that probably had nothing to do with the
Yeah.
actual AI anyway. And like, so I don't know what to do.
Mm.
It sounds arrogant, right? You're coming from this enterprise level of W-2 income to like charging someone $1,000 to tell them
Maybe
stupid
we should have
stories.
another call off of this because I feel like I got some ideas already. I mean, just alone with what you can do with
Good.
Claude Code now, like I mean, it's a game changer for the solo agency.
Okay, so off topic because I want to bring you back to the friction, but
Yeah, yeah.
the guy I met with yesterday, commercial real estate, his target is $1 million a year.
Yep.
And same, what's interesting, I'm gonna have to do a post about this because I always start with quote to cash for a business. For the solopreneur, a commission sales guy, I was like, hang on, dude. What are your goals? Okay, $1 million. What are all the inputs?
Yep.
Now you need processes that manage these inputs.
Yep.
Sort of quote to cash, but it was a different it was a 3-column barcode. And then in the end of it, I was staring at it. And I'm like, you don't have, this isn't a intercom, automate your customer service problem. This is a CRM
Yep.
problem. You need to talk to 300 people a year so you can get to your 80 closed deals. And then you need to automate that as much as possible so
Reverse
that you're just
engineer.
looking at a
Yeah.
calendar full of bookings. So Claude
Mhm.
keeps Cloud Code and like HubSpot keeps coming to mind on that. What integrations or automations are you seeing that actually streamline a sales process out
I
there?
mean, it's wild right now, right? What it can, there's nothing it can't touch, right? So there you can get the MCPs that connect into all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you got to be careful with that because it's client information. You got to make sure everything's secure and whatnot. But the tedious stuff that we would go in and update record, like I
Yeah.
don't know if it was you or someone else of like finding all the you go into an org and there's like 6,000 fields on one object or something, and you're
Yeah,
like,
we did talk about that, like three page scrolls
yeah, and
of
you're
page layout. Yeah.
that makes that stuff gets very easy to fix,
Yeah.
right? Now there's
Yeah.
always a risk with that because I mean there's no undo button, so you have to.
Mm.
I'm very cautious with some of this stuff because you never know like what the client has, right? You don't know, like
Mm.
again, like that thing of like the ERP, the custom thing. You don't know there's some dependency that's just so
Hmm.
archaic and old and legacy that it's there and it could
Yeah.
break the whole system. So you got to be very cautious, right? But once you know
Mm.
you've spot tested it enough, checked it, you're like, let's make this thing happen. I mean, Claude just like speeds up the workflow. It works with
Mm.
you, even if it's not it's directly piped in. It's all the ancillary tools, which I think now is like we're seeing like the stacks are getting so big.
Yeah.
It's the outbound, the inbound stuff, the enrichment, all the things that the CRM is kind of inert, especially the legacy platforms like HubSpot and Salesforce. So I think the
Isn't
newer,
that crazy?
yeah,
This big AI, I watched them. They were swallowing up the services, and I know that sounds weird, but like, so Clay
yeah,
did a little price change on their credits,
yeah, yeah.
and that big AI company looked at it and said, "Uh-oh, give us 2 days. We don't need Clay anymore." And
You
then
don't
like,
need Clay anymore.
uh,
I know.
yeah, then they were looking at
I love Clay. Don't get me wrong. I still use it.
I
I
love
would,
Clay. I think it's amazing. I actually don't think it'll go away too soon because not everyone has the brain power that these
it's a CRM
LLMs
hygiene
can put
tool.
behind the solution.
You know what I mean? It's a
Yes,
CRM hygiene tool. Yeah.
but the CRM, or maybe we'll go back to that small example. This sign shop, now that, so it's called Fin AI, and Intercom is their little branded customer service automation.
Yeah, yeah,
But
sure.
if you think about it from his perspective, a person hits your website or calls or emails, sends you a message, tells you exactly what they want, gets all the specs back, confirms the order, sends the order. Like that's also your CRM now. It's
Yep.
you know who the name was, what they asked for, when the last contact was. And so what I'm seeing
Mm,
is these walls are like dissolving some, and,
yeah,
and I
that's a good
feel
way
like
to put
we get in a weird space where you're just at a console and you're like, let's
it.
look at the
Sure.
business. And
Well, it's gonna be like soon. I really think it's gonna be like Tony Stark and Iron Man doing this stuff, right?
yeah.
Totally,
I
right?
I talk about that old Tom Cruise movie where
Minority
it's
Report.
yeah, and he's like at the
Yeah, he's doing all
computer.
that. We're
It
going.
wasn't as like crack induced as Tony
Yeah,
Stark, yeah, but it's the same thing.
Zuck will eventually figure out meta goggles, how they actually are
Yeah,
supposed to work, and we'll put something on or we'll put an implant. That's coming. It has to, because that's
yeah,
the friction is with hardware now. We can't work quick enough. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if you use Whisperflow for dictation for working.
Not yet, but I've heard amazing things about it.
Yeah, once you start dictating, your
Yeah,
workflow, like it like light speed, But I love what you said. I want to go back to something because you said like
yeah,
use Fin Intercom for it's like becomes a source of truth, becomes a CRM. But here's
yeah.
the problem: if you don't have integration between all, it's so like I love Adio right now, right? ATTIO. I don't know if you've seen that for the
Okay.
CRM. It's a great.
Mm-mm.
It's
Okay,
great.
but give me to that because I'm trying to get him to rip out a CRM. So tell me I'm
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
this
it's
wrong.
amazing, right?
Like, give me to this.
You can build your own in Claude Code now, and that's what people are doing, right? So it's just knowing how all those integrate. So if you got Fin, you got Intercom, you got your automation platform, it all has to roll up into one source of truth. There has to be that
Mm,
data at the bottom that's all
mm.
unified, and that's the thing that isn't really happening. It's still
Yeah, but
manual.
so what part do you what do you own? Because this is an
Yeah.
interesting thing for me when I think about the business owner.
Yep.
You don't own HubSpot, you don't own Salesforce, you don't own your Gmail even, you don't own Outlook. So it's like,
Yeah.
do you own a spreadsheet? Do you so that's still where I push back on like the CRM. I agree with what you're saying. Like the source of truth in every business, huge problem. But in this scenario, and again, I'm not endorsed by Finn by any means, and
No, no,
I,
no.
and I don't think they're the solution for everyone. But like, how does Intercom not become his source of truth
No,
then?
I
If
know.
like for the last 5 years, it's all his transaction data.
No, I hear it. I feel like you have to pick a path. And so my path has
Uh-huh.
been the CRM is the most important piece of software and the most underutilized piece of software in any
I do
organization.
agree.
I'll die
Yeah.
on that hill, right? Because you got to pick
Okay.
something. If not, you're just going to keep hopping on stuff. I love your example, and the more forward-leaning teams might, for your example, your business case, that's might maybe all they need to be like, we can just
Mm.
run Fin as and that you see that all the time now with tools like you can use instantly, right, for outbound, and they have their own
Yeah.
CRM, and it's actually not that bad, right?
Yeah, that was like Apollo also, and
Correct.
now that they got Pocus, I would. Well, I get maybe what jumps out to me hearing you say that is like I don't think Intercom ever set out to say, "Oh, and we're
No.
also CRM." I don't think Apollo did start kind of hinting at it, but they
Yeah.
were always like a source of data, But
Yeah,
then
yeah,
people
yeah.
just realized like, why do I jump between systems now when it's all here?
It's too much friction when you're hopping all over. See, so
Yeah.
I like to backfill everything in, and that's what gets really easy with Claude Code is piping everything back into the CRM. So that's how I use it the most to kind of close that loop. You can really it becomes that mega integration layer with MCPs
Mm.
and custody HTTPI, all that stuff. Like that's how you connect that stuff in, and then you're using again the CRM as that primary source for all of it.
Yeah. So I had a question for you written down. Are you what's your take on like Salesforce versus HubSpot? Are you
Yeah.
allegiant to one over the other?
I've worked more with Salesforce over the years,
Okay.
and it's a love-hate relationship, like with all of
It's
them.
so good. I tell people they've kept me employed for a long time, so I love them for
No, no,
that,
no,
but
I totally. I
trying to
think
customize something, I hate it.
I might have heard one of you referenced SteelBrick, which became CPQ, and
Yeah,
now
yeah. Yeah,
Revenue
yeah.
Cloud or
And
whatever.
now it's new, NUE, which no
Yeah,
it's like,
and
why do you guys choose these names?
if you've worked in that in any org and tried to
Yeah.
untangle a
Yeah,
mess with
yeah.
CPQ or you're just like it it can drive you off the cliff, And so like
CPQ is such a fascinating problem set and solution though. Like I almost if I had to start everything over and niche into one thing, I'd probably niche into CPQ.
yeah,
Like
it's an
just that
interesting. What's
yeah.
the new there's a new platform.
NUE is the one Salesforce is using now.
Yeah,
New
but
new is what they're calling it.
the one that I like right now. Sorry, I'll just do a little
Take
search.
your time.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but no, the thing is like Salesforce HubSpot. It's going to go on forever. Um, I think you're going to start to see them lose market share. I really do. I think ADIO. I think smaller CRMs like Folk. I think are
Mm.
cool. I think you're going to
Okay,
see.
here's a theory though.
Yeah.
There were some radio advertisers in this co-working space the other day,
Okay.
and they said something like some big name spends 500,000 a year on radio ads, and they can't be wrong. And I just wanted to like shake these people and be like, they're wrong. So I think that HubSpot and Salesforce are going to lose market share by quantity of users.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're going to lose these enterprise giants that they're
No, they
making
can't.
all their money
You
from.
can't you can't
Yeah.
spin someone off. Yeah. I mean, you're gonna see some, I think you're gonna see some disruptors. Like, I don't know if you've seen I think it's Sam Blond, he created Monaco. Have you seen this? Like
Mm-mm.
these multiple, they're like the mega platforms, like the whole go to market, the entire thing
Mm.
in one place. Cause see, that's again what we want. We want unified, right? That
Mm.
unified layer of like
Okay, go
you
back to architect though. Do you want that? Because also, like as an operator, I hear a lot of risk in that at the same time.
there is, if this, I mean, if the tool doesn't stick around and doesn't and is in
Yeah.
that bubble, then you're sunk if you invest in one, you know. So I see it. I mean, I think you're seeing a lot of startups use that stuff because they're brand new and they're like, we don't
Mm.
even have a CRM. So if you were starting fresh today, I would say let's try something new. Like most companies, I'd say try ADIO. Like start with that. Don't even use it. They would have to hear the
Let me
Salesforce.
write it down.
Yeah, yeah,
Spell it.
ATTIO. ATTIO.
Yeah, I have heard of that. Okay, ATTIO.
It's just so clean. It's so clean and simple,
Yeah.
and it's a few. There's people, companies, and deals.
Yeah.
And then when you need more stuff, you can layer it on. But that's when you have the other tools. You can pipe, intercom in and all that. They
Yeah.
all play really nicely because it's AI first, right? It's a
Yeah.
better, right?
They
Salesforce.
ask me a lot in interviews, and I feel snarky when I answer this, but they're like, "Oh, have you ever heard of random XYZ
Yeah,
CRM?" And I'm like, I was like,
I know.
does it have leads? Does it have contacts?
This
Does
is
it have
yeah,
accounts? Do they turn
totally.
into opportunities? And do you close win or close lose them? I'm
No, I
like,
know.
we're good. I'll
I
be all
think
right.
the downside to like Salesforce, because it's like the bigger tool, it's the bigger enterprise tool, in my
Yeah,
opinion,
yeah.
right? It's just they allowed people so much customization that it harmed them. Like, and that's why it became unusable. People who weren't skilled at
Well, it became unusable out the box.
correct.
So I agree with you, but like and here was the challenge with this mid-market PE company that I was referencing earlier. I meant to chime in on you talked about tools are getting trapped, and like I walked them through a 3-year renewal with Salesforce for like 100K,
Yep.
and then a month later or something, I'm trying to like get them out of the old janky niche CRM they were in, which like tied in their ERP. And the CFO walks in and was like, "Hey, we're on year 7 of a PE cycle. Like we're not
Yeah.
buying a new ERP CRM. That's for
Right.
the next owner."
Totally.
And then I was like, "Well, you just literally you're spending 250 to 300K a year on CRMs now, and you're not even using one of them." And so it's
It,
it's a weird thing. I forgot where I was going with that
no, no,
question,
no. But
but
you're saying a really good point. I mean, there's a huge frustration there with like you buy stuff, and I've seen companies spend $1 million on Salesforce products, and nobody really uses the tool. And you bring
yeah.
that up, and they're like, "Yeah, but what are you gonna do?" And you would think
That
that
okay,
would,
you're right. That was the point. You can't use Salesforce without developers. And so
yeah,
that means you're going to hire
yep,
at a minimum administrators, and then you're going to need it just is not going to work out the box the way you think it is. You're going to need someone that's smart enough to go and do some that was my point. Is it's not even just the sticker price,
yep,
because you were saying it's complicated, and I agree, but like when you I have pitched this to larger mid-market and smaller enterprise companies, like when you finally see what it looks like to go from marketing lead to the opportunity, you track it at a certain stage, it automatically creates your order record. The order record fulfills, then it provisions your service, and then it gets handed off to your renewals team. Like, so beautiful.
That's
But
hot.
that was
You know
not
what I mean?
cheap.
That's
Yeah.
all it
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
get us very excited, because that is what we're trying to, that cord, or that like fabric, that thing that is actually follows the whole,
Yeah. Yeah.
so hard to do. I mean, I call it the consultant industrial complex. What you're describing, like that's these companies get so beholden to the consultant, they can't even, because I don't see. Here's the thing that I see the most right now, Chad, is that there's not in-house talent to do this stuff. People don't know.
I don't think there is.
Yeah.
I think that they think they are. And I've actually been, so again, I'm in between W-2 jobs right now.
Yeah.
So on my to-do list, among many, many things to do, is submit 10 applications minimum. And it normally turns into 30 per day. It's exhausting. And then like when I read the descriptions of what they're asking for, half the time I'm like, you don't know what you're asking for. This is like some unicorn go-to-market system engineer that also knows all your business processes. Or you want to pay 60 grand for some associate that you actually need to do all the work for you, and it's never going to happen, you know?
I know. Well,
it's such a
first
an emotionally draining process.
Automate. That's a great job for Claude Code or Cowork to do that. You could.
I'm so scared that LinkedIn bans me that none of the applications will go through, that I just trudge through
directly on LinkedIn. Yeah, you got to be careful with that. But I mean, a lot of times you just find the it's on the website too, and you.
That is true.
But
that is true.
No, it is wild, like these unicorn roles. I mean, you're seeing that with the go-to-market engineer, I think, and the forward deployed engineer. Those are kind of becoming, I think, the roles that companies want. Like the startup.
I don't think it's a fair label though. Like I talk to, so you're an architect, and the difference between an architect and a true developer engineer is that you actually have good communication skills. And I know that that's. Yeah, I know that that's a weird thing to say, but if you've talked to a real developer, it's really hard to communicate, you know? So
the question might be, Chad, have you ever actually talked to a developer? Because the answer is probably no. You can't, there's that wall, like,
there's a lot of I remember one guy, I was trying to probe through in like a business analyst hat. He was a developer niched in for Marketo or Eloqua, whatever they were on back then.
Yeah.
And I will call him Steve. I forgot his name. I'm like, Steve, I'm just trying to understand why we can't get like, I think we just wanted the connect one process. And he kept looking at me like he was, I'm finally, does that make sense? He's like, it's a freaking stupid question. And I was like, oh, all right, well, let's unpack that box some. Let's see how we can get from like A to B.
It's their precious, and there's so much wall there to break. Because they're like, this is so fragile. And that's the thing, it's fragile AF. That's what the truth is with all this. If you look into the actual infrastructure, the IT stuff, right? Microsoft 365 orgs are rife with this stuff. It's everywhere, right? So you have all these things that, like, they know if you pull one thing out, it's like Jenga, right? It all falls.
Well, also, I think, what's funny is I'm guilty of that as an operator on the ops side.
Totally.
Like, we'll say, we'll automate this process. And then we're like, look how I've saved you 50% of time. But I know, like, in two little dark corners there, I call it the hamster in the wheel. There's like a hamster spinning the wheel, like importing CSVs on a daily basis. And whenever that stops, like, it's all going to fall apart.
We're like, we automated everything, and there's somebody still exporting. I mean, that's what Clay, right? You're still typing out CSVs and stuff. And you're like, have we really evolved, right? Like with some of this stuff. I think some stuff is going to get really good soon. I'm excited about some new stuff that's coming out. But I feel like, again, I agree with you, like, if you invest in it, how long are they going to be around? There's all these questions of like, when do you, to stick with the standard, the tried and true, or do you try something new?
Well, we started early in the conversation. We were talking about like Gold Rush versus you said something
Wild
like
West.
There's Wild West. I lean toward Wild West because there actually is. There's so many good little. Let's lean into like the metaphor. There's so many good little towns on the frontier that are popping up, and they're wonderful places to live, and all you got to do is get there and build your little house in it.
Land grab.
And but then also there's so many pitfalls along the way, and that's why it's like, I don't think that everyone in this market is set out to be like a fraudster, or they're trying to scam you. I really do think they're trying to find their way, and I think that the possibilities are so robust right now.
Mhm.
Or maybe it's just more accessible. Like back to that developer, you don't need a guy that speaks Python fluently to like get anywhere, you know?
Not
You can go
anymore. Yep.
into what is it called? Like Replic's one of them, Lovable's
Yeah.
another one I've seen a
Oh,
lot.
sure,
Like
sure.
you can proof of concept your idea in 3 days and then go get then I do
That's how
tell
I
people
use
use
Claude Code. Yeah.
professionals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
totally. The proof of concept. You can spin it up and be like, "This is what we're thinking for a data model or something." Yeah.
And
No,
that's wild, wild west.
it
But
well,
I think that's an amazing time to live. I mean, we haven't seen this yet, but my 3-year-old will not know a world
mm,
where you could not have where you could have an idea and not bring it to fruition
sure.
within minutes. So when these children are 13, 12, 13, 14, let alone like 18, 19, 20, it's just gonna be like, Dad, the way you're doing that's really stupid. Hang on, and then like, boom, you got new apps sitting on your table or something.
I love it how quickly this can get existential and philosophical because it
Oh,
almost
for
has
sure.
to now. And I feel, but I can always hang in this space. So like I love Cal Newport, right? I don't know if you're familiar with him, right?
It's the second time I've heard this name.
Yeah,
I
so you
gotta
gotta check him
write
out,
it down.
right?
No, you told me. You told me, and I
I think
looked up his
I
books.
brought it
That's
up. Yeah,
right.
I kind of mentioned one of the things. So you got to check him out.
Yeah.
He says this thing. It's like cognitive fitness. This
Mm,
muscle is getting weak,
hmm.
right? So
It
we
is
have
fatiguing.
right. We need to be creative. That's where, and it comes from when
Mm.
we're away from our setups and LLMs and all the systems. When
Yeah,
we're
recall too. I'm forgetting names that I shouldn't be forgetting, and I'm tempted to like go and I'm like, wait, just spend 2 more minutes and remember that name.
we're
It's
tapped.
like,
We're getting tapped, and
yeah.
we can just default to the easy thing. There's no friction with LLMs and with AI tools.
Mm-hmm.
Very little
Mm-hmm.
friction. So I think we need to hold on to that, especially from the architect's perspective, or the RevOps, whatever. We have to still solve creatively on our own and listen and think and rely on what we've seen over the years because it really has not changed that much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, still quote to cash. That's really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Got to get leads, got to do, got to get them to the right people. It's just if we don't think about it critically, that gets atrophied, and then we're just going to default to that's the slop, that's the noise. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's like we got
That brings us back to so you're an agency and you help companies give the price range for me again. I heard did I hear 5
yeah,
to 100?
it's like I mean I've gone up to the 500 million, but I think my sweet spot is like the 30 to 70 mil. That's kind of like
That's such a good one. I once you start after like 40 million and like up to 600, it becomes a different beast. But 40 million is so good. You're so well funded. You're hitting the market well.
yeah. Tell me why you
Anyway,
think because I have my view on that. I'm curious to see is it because they're funded, they're making progress, they see growth.
why it's good or why it gets bad?
Why it's good. That's why.
Because they're funded and also they've broken out of the founder led trap. So
It is.
they realize that headcount does solve things. Money is required.
Yep.
You shouldn't look at every single employee and think they can bootstrap every idea. But then they're just before the good to great gap, which is where like once you start
Yep.
trying to go from 40 to 80 million, you can collapse under your own success real quick. That's
There
where
you
the
go.
hamsters in the wheels
I
start
like that.
really
I like that.
revealing
Very well said.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So what I was trying to get at was so you're delivering it for these guys.
Yep.
What is the first deliverable in your iterative process? And then where do you hit friction on that? Like, does anyone ever look at you with like the blank stare and blinking like this was it? Like I just see like 27 problems here.
Yeah. No. That's the thing. You have to be. It's like progressive disclosure. You want to not. You don't want to tell everybody like, hey, the house is on fire. Like, good news, bad
Yeah,
news.
yeah.
You gotta have that bedside manner. I don't know how else to call it. Like you gotta be kind. And I mean, usually it starts with the data. I mean, the easiest thing is like Salesforce org. You always start with the CRM, right? I always start with the CRM. And
Mm,
then say, are you using leads? Are you using opportunities? Like you just
mm.
that's the easiest one, the lowest hanging fruit, in my opinion. Be like, are
Yeah,
you
like
using
the
are you
standard
using the tool the
objects.
way it was supposed to be used? Yeah, and you find that out
Yeah.
really quick, and it's astonishing how few people, how
It hurt
few,
my face. I'm traumatized from the $120 million company because they wanted predictable forecast, and I kept trying to tell them every transaction is a close one opportunity. Oh no, we don't want to put that burden on our sellers. And I was just
oh, like,
like I don't.
yeah, I could talk about that meme for a lifetime. I've
It's
had company, they're like, let's buy the extra package in Salesforce or whatever to get the revenue intelligence. I'm like, you guys aren't even using opportunities.
yeah.
Why would this work? And we'll
I
pay.
don't understand why they push back so much on it.
and that's the thing that is the thing I care about the most, and that I feel like ends up being you end up having becoming a mentor or a coach to these companies because you have
Yes.
to explain that. All the other stuff is for naught if you don't get that conversation where you say, "Do you see why this is a problem? I will work with you to help you understand this," because that's where it all starts.
They were paying me a lot of money, and I was just like, "Man, you guys are overpaying me." And I told
Yep.
the CEO and CFO that several times. You can get MSP, and I would sit down and be like, "Listen, have you ever built a fence in your backyard? You know,
No.
like if you hire an
Yeah.
architect to build a fence, the posts go 8 feet on center. If you tell them to put it 12 feet, 10 feet, 6 feet, you're not building a fence anymore. You're just paying the guy a bunch of money to do
No.
arts and crafts,
It's
you
gonna
know?
be
So
standards.
what are we
Yeah.
doing here? Yeah. And the standard, but maybe unpack that some from an architect's lens, because I think when people hear it's got to be standard, sometimes they'll come back and be like, well, you're just not thinking outside the box. And I'm like, but boxes are square. Let's start there. Boxes
Right.
are standard.
And
You
then, well, you
know,
have
it's
to
like,
ask the question of, like, did you hire us? Did you hire me to solve the problem or to just work the
mm,
way you wanna keep working? Because a lot of times the way they're
yes.
working, it's not the right way, and that's why we're the professionals, and we have to recommend. I mean, there's always, like, let me see if I can come up with a good example. I see the ones of like, oh, we have a bunch of leads, or we're using contact. Let's take Salesforce as an example. You see the contact lead saying, oh, we just use contacts. If you use leads, it's going to be
Yeah.
better because then they can earn their right to become a contact. I love that
That's
process,
right.
and it's so much better. That's an easy one to be like, all right, let's figure out. We'll do an audit on all the contacts. What's the stuff that doesn't have activity, right? Activity is a huge one. I'll that's the other one I'll die on is activity.
Mhm.
But we'll
Mhm.
figure that out. Let's standardize. We'll find out what's real. We'll delete what's not. We'll export. We'll have it in a CSV. We'll put it somewhere in the
Mhm.
cloud to save, so you're not going to freak out because they don't want to get rid of data. They're always so oh we
Mhm.
someday we might need this, right? But we'll enrich it now with like clay. We'll run it through tools so we know what's
Mm.
good. These people don't even work here anymore. Let's get rid of this stuff. We'll delete. We'll delete, and then we'll get to
Yeah,
a
yeah.
point where we're like, all right, we have a better matching set. We'll run a tool that finds oh what are the dupes. We'll find them. We'll merge them, and then we'll have a better. And then we look at it but you gotta that's where you have to start, in my opinion. You have to start
What do
with
you think is, I do another question I try to get to is like, what's your goal? So what you just
yeah,
described was a amazing exercise. But then if you're talking to that CRO or CFO, what's the so what to it? Like what's that big pie in the sky that you're like, and this is why you want to do all
yeah.
that?
If you don't have what I call foundations of revenue, if you don't have the foundations, all the stuff just gets shaky AF and it just becomes a fragile
Mm,
system. You have to build robust and anti-fragile systems because it has to take the stress test of all the tooling that's coming. And I think
mhm,
we are really going to see a shift in how RevOps tooling, go-to-market tooling work. I mean, we're just seeing a glimpse of it now. It is going to
mm.
become insane, I think, over the next year, and so
Yeah,
you
but
have to
talk about the core of it. Sorry to cut you off, but
yeah,
talk about
no,
the core of it for a minute. Like, so you could say train your salespeople and or hire more salespeople because you will make more money and they'll always cost less
mhm,
than the money you made.
yep,
Then you could say increase your gap discipline and hire good finance teams because they'll keep you out of jail and they'll save you money on like credit terms.
yeah,
So the ops is somewhere in the middle, right? And you're in that world. So what are you telling them? Do this right, because like one thing I'll say is so you don't spend 200K on tools you don't need. But like that sounds too surface level. What else would you tell them?
no, I know. I mean, again, it's to have a clear path of the pipeline. Like, see, that's going to make so much sense if we just have a standard view of the pipeline.
Yeah,
We can actually build a pipeline because a lot of times you can't even get a pipeline
that's true.
report. So
Yeah,
you
so
need
sales
that.
is winging it.
You got to start. So you can try to do it with manipulation. You can run the reverse ETL. You can do all that stuff. Throw it into
Mm,
Snowflake and do all the. But it's if you can probably start simpler in a lot of these companies if you're not like looking at millions of contacts you can probably just
mm,
do it in a simpler effort. And I just think
mm.
standardizing, normalizing, getting to base is just going to make everything easier to work with because you have like that the foundation, the base to start with. And we always try to
Yeah,
start beyond the base or below. You got to start with like,
yeah.
this is neutral. This is square one.
Well, I used to tell when I finally, because I came from API integration, retail integration, and then I had to figure out what sales operations was. And it took me
Yeah.
like a year. I was running a department of 23 people with worldwide offices. And finally, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, we exist solely to help sellers get their deals done as swiftly and smoothly as possible. And to me, it made sense. But then like that wasn't, there was no dollar sign apparently. People didn't get it. Like, no,
Sure. Oh,
your
that's a great.
salespeople will be more productive, you know, like you're making more money
How do you
and
measure that?
saving
Yeah.
money.
That's why I am emphatic. I cannot stress this enough about activity metrics because I feel like that is
Yeah.
such a blind spot. There's no good way to track it all. You need that, and that's the next thing I do. I always make sure there's a standard for capturing activity. You know as well as I do, everyone's doing their own thing. They're using their own cell
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah.
They might be logging activity and through HubSpot, Salesforce. They might use another thing. The DMs aren't logging. That's tough to do now, but there's ways.
Yeah.
You've got to get all that activity on one record so you can see what's
So
happening.
what is, I mean, so like worst looks like no activity and they're just picking random forecasting numbers,
Right.
but what's bad look like to you? And then what's on the other side of cleaned up when you're just talking about activities?
Activity, I would just say, like, first, what are they using the most? Most are going to use email and phone. You got to track that, right? So,
Yeah.
if you can just get the email tracking, and though that's like stupid simple to do now,
Yeah.
Salesforce is a great example. You just set it up, Einstein Activity Capture, it just pipes everything in. Love it or hate it, they're always changing the API, so you got to always be nimble with the way they do this stuff. But
Yeah.
it's going to work like 90% of the time, you know. So
Yeah.
that's like the lowest hanging fruit. And most orgs I work
I agree.
with,
Also with like with the tools out there like Gong now, or I mean,
yeah.
but even 10 years ago, they still had I forget some of them, but like they were recording your calls and giving you sentiment 10, 12 years ago. Like it's
Yeah, no, this isn't
inexcusable.
anything new. It's just now that there's so much of it,
Yeah.
it's much more affordable. Like Gong is an awesome tool, but you might not need it in a lot of organizations. Like the
Yeah.
smaller,
Yeah, it's true.
Sybil, Attention, all these smaller brands are really cool, and it all rolls
Yeah,
back
yeah.
to the CRM. But you need that stamp. You need to record video calls, and a lot of people
Yeah.
aren't doing that, and that comes down to how what's the behavior of the users. You can set
Yeah.
up all that stuff, but if they're not logging in and there's friction with their setup, their hardware, and those calls don't
Mm,
get logged, that's the elephant in the room
mm,
with all this stuff is no you don't know if
yeah.
it's actually working, right? Browsers that haven't been updated in like a year, like people don't close their browsers
Mm,
at night. Like I start with like fundamental stuff, right?
mm.
And because that's
Do
how.
you how far would you say you reach across the funnel when people say like I'm top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel?
Yeah,
Like do you get all the way into I was just thinking about as you were talking about that, like quota,
yeah,
quota in territory planning. Does an architect fit in that?
absolutely. That's a huge one. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's a huge one. That can be a nightmare if, like,
Yeah.
there's great tools now to help that hire, right? Because you
Yeah.
can de-anonymize data, so you can say, oh, they're actually coming from this territory. We're gonna route this. We're gonna pipe them.
Yeah.
We're gonna use
Well,
like
but I guess it's always been so weird to me why attainment, comp plans, and it's like it becomes like an afterthought. Like you gave these guys some directives, goals, things they have to do, required fields, and like they don't even know how they're tracking against like what their attainment plan is.
yeah. If you don't have leadership, so like you have that real, in my opinion, would be the CRO on some level, or maybe it's
Yeah.
the sales ops, maybe it's
No, I think 100%. I
I
think
think
that's what a CRO is
it's CRO,
for.
right? They're gonna make sure
Yeah.
that everyone is working this way.
Yeah,
And
I actually object when people try to put that on ops. I'm like, don't go send that to high salaried employees to tell like commissioned
yeah,
people what to do. Like big
yeah.
bad move.
Yeah, but you have to have everyone working the tool the same way. And so
Yeah.
how do you catch that if you slip? That's why you have to focus on the CRM. If records aren't
Mm.
getting updated, if you're in sales, if you Chad, how come this stuff isn't logging? Were you on calls this week? Somebody has to look at that stuff. I'm
Mm.
sorry.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
you have to you it's not that you don't trust the team. You need that to know what's working because how are you going to be able to have that virtuous loop to know what's working and what's not,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I do think so sales leadership is interesting. I'm looking for more sales leaders to do conversations on that because it's more than just like, oh, that was the most charming or charismatic guy or gal and they close really well. Like sales leadership it's not an ugly business, but there's a side to it that is actually shepherding junior salespeople and pushing them through necessary motions so that
totally.
like everyone eats their dog food or does
Yeah.
what they have to
It's
do.
an art, and it's
Yeah.
probably the most important job in a company, in my opinion. And like a good sales rep is like that's why they make the kind of money they make. But
Yeah.
you need to be able to read.
Yeah, say that again. People miss that because a good sales rep
Yeah,
that's getting a high base salary and strong commissions, What the CRO values more than anything is
Yeah.
that he or she's committed it to forecast, and forecast came in, and it's like data accuracy, predictability, and discipline is what they're getting paid well for.
And a lot of times with that though, there's not the virtuous loop because those top performers get to do whatever they want. They're
Yeah, that's true. That's
like
very fair.
Chaz is running I call it the shadow CRM, the spreadsheet.
Yeah, yeah.
Chaz
No,
is
I see it.
running.
I see it all the time. I've been segmented out into different sections of sales ops, which I never loved. But it's like you only do sales ops for these
Yeah, yeah,
people.
yeah.
And then I'd look behind me on the sales floor in Austin, and like all these little color coded spreadsheets are open,
What
and
do
I'm just like,
Yeah.
bro, what are you doing?
What are
You
you
know,
doing?
and it's these are my hot ones. This is who I'm calling today, and it's like, oh, this is hurting my
I mean,
face.
and that's just adoption. Nobody trained because how many times you go into organizations, there's no one they can go to ask help. Like when I worked in IT for years, I would always put customers first, and that's kind of how I built my
Yeah,
business. Is
yeah.
like customers come first, right? So let's figure out how to use this. You drive. I want to share your screen. Show me what. I'll show you
Hmm.
how to do it. It takes more
That's a big
time,
one for
but
me.
it
Yeah,
sticks.
show me what you did to get that
Yep,
error. Yeah.
exactly, because they don't know, and you have to have a safe space. I mean, there's a whole other business here, adoption
Yeah.
specialist, whatever you want to call it. You have to work with them and be like, hey, it's cool. You're in a safe place. Show me what you got. Hey, we'll fix
Yeah.
it. You know?
You know, that one has a strange name. I was just doing that for that big AI company, and we as consultants were running their help desk for them, their go-to-market systems help desk, but the consultant company was putting developers on it. And I got in there, I'm like, you have to understand, this person only cares about getting the quote out
Yep.
or progressing the deal. Like her not knowing how to do a rip and replace, or her not
Yeah.
knowing that this needs to be approved or primary quote first. Like it's not lecture time.
Yeah.
Let's just be empathetic. Let's sit down and let's help this person get from this part of the deal to the next and educate.
It,
And then maybe they don't
oh,
come
I
back
love
again.
that.
But you
It
can't
works
have this
so much.
condescending tone.
If you just have some, hey, everybody, if they're not updating records, they're gonna get pounded. They're gonna get a pip or something, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might work with some, but you gotta get. I call it hearts and minds, or to use them. I think it was McChrystal,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
military. I love
That's
that
good.
term, hearts and minds, man. You got to win them over that way.
Yeah.
And that's honest and authentic. I don't care. You have to win them over. Let them
Yeah, well,
know
you
that.
have to show them that you've got their same vested interest,
Yep.
and that you're going in the same direction. And that's where ops people fall down the most. I'd like to think I'm not as guilty of it, but I've certainly had people on my team where I have to remind them, you're making $130,000 to $170,000 a year right now. This person's getting half of that in base and hoping that she hits her quota
Yeah.
so that she can get somewhere near what you made. Like it's a different world, and you have to
Totally.
approach that with empathy, and that's where hearts and minds come in.
I love it, and I'll go one step further. I say, like, what makes a good architect? You build them something that's so good they can't say no. That they'll just be like,
That's
this is
great.
much easier to use the tool, the systems that we have in place than my own version. Because
Yeah.
it should be so good and so easy to use that they just want to. And you got to
Yeah.
work with them on that. That requires the empathy. That requires the,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I wanted to ask you about some of your LinkedIn posts, because we're learning more about the Tyson that's inside the Tyson.
yeah,
The photos you choose
yeah,
are you're choosing them intentionally, right?
yeah,
It's very artistic,
yeah.
but it's like
Give me an
what's the
example of it.
word for that?
Yeah,
Okay, one. So there's two that I really loved. The Boston Post, you were driving to Boston, and
yeah,
I've done the bus ride from New York to Boston like a
yeah.
dozen
Nice.
times.
Yeah,
So I've
yeah,
seen some of these. But like you just had this great still of the old plant,
yeah.
as a
Well,
grain
Boston
plant or
sand and
something.
gravel, dude. That's it. That's the
Yeah,
stuff.
but you chose a shot a certain way. That wasn't just like a
Oh,
cell
thank
phone,
you.
like, hey,
No,
Boston.
no, that was me in the truck driving down. I was going to an
So you
event.
took that photo.
Yeah, I took it, and I was
Okay.
right there on the Southeast Expressway, what we used to call the Southeast Expressway, in traffic, 93. You're there, and I'm like, well, I'm not going anywhere. And every time I see that building, I get chills because it's like
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if Boston, I went to school there. It's like I call it my home. I live in New Hampshire, but Boston's still kind of like my
You
home.
don't sound like Boston. That's funny.
No, I
I don't
know.
mean it
Yeah,
as an
I'm
insult,
more.
but I
Yeah,
didn't pick it up.
but it's just no, you gotta like kind of bring something real, because you can just keep talking
Yeah.
about RevOps, go to market stuff, but like,
No, it's
well,
great.
went to the yeah, so
It was life. The other
life, yeah,
one was there was a modern desk, but then next to it, someone had ripped out the electrical panel. And it actually took me a while to see the contrast, because I feel
Yeah.
like on social media, most people just scroll through. It would have registered and stopped the scroll, but like,
Yeah.
what's going on there? And then like even the coil, I've done electrical, I know the voltage there. It
Yeah.
was just like coiled neatly on like a dog mat. I'm like, that's super
No, I
dangerous.
know. And I mean, you just there's nothing there, and that's the problem. Like you look at like a lot of
Yeah.
this stuff, and like you I look at it. I was using. I think that was a tear one week. I'm like, let's just think of it from like construction. Like if you don't have the foundations, because that's what I keep. That's my thing. I
Yeah.
keep coming back to the
Yeah.
foundations. I mean, that stuff. If you don't have it, it's just there's nowhere to go. And I'm just going back to yeah. You gotta have those pieces. I see the one now.
But
Yeah.
is that so? Did you look for that photo? Did you take that photo? Was
Oh,
it
I just made that with Nano Banana, man. Yeah.
okay? I thought for just a second, I was like, that's almost too clean.
Yeah.
I wondered if that was Gemini.
I mean, it's
Okay.
yeah,
Then you did the Hong Kong one, which I thought was
yeah.
outstanding.
Wall City. Do you
Yeah.
remember the story of that place? Like,
I mean, I remember Hong Kong. So when I
yeah,
grew up, Hong Kong was British run.
yeah,
I didn't know that then there was another little like no man's town. You used like a deca-acre, like 50 deca-acre.
dude.
It's pretty big.
You forget about this stuff, and you go back and read about it on like Wikipedia or something, or have Chat GPT or Claude
Yeah.
take you through. I mean, it was this little space, right? So like, but 50,000 people lived in this, and they call it Kowloon Walled City, and they just kept
Hmm.
building on top of it. It was like
Yeah.
the ghetto, the slums, and they just kept, and there was no,
Yeah.
and just everything was piped in, and I'm like, that's kind of like how we're building infrastructure nowadays. We're just
I
bolting.
lived in
Yep.
Puerto Rico for a couple years, and they have a little ghetto called La Perla, the
Yeah.
Pearl. But
Mhm.
it's interesting because historically speaking, there's the castle, the fort, the big fort there that
Yep.
faces the water where the cannon would be.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
on the outside of the protected walls was just all these shanties that were
Yep.
built up,
It's
and people are
crazy.
still living there.
Yeah. Hmm.
But yeah, they just pile it on wherever they can. I think I think maybe what I'm leaning into on the photos though is like that's a different way of looking at the world. I don't mean in any racy or edgy way, but
No.
like what do you see? Have you ever like explored yourself introspectively compared to someone else where you walk into a scene and
Mhm.
your situational awareness is just different? Like what do you see or how do you take in
Yeah.
a place
That's a
once you
great
step into it?
I've always been, sort of a philosopher at heart. I'm a deep thinker, right?
Yeah.
So, I feel like we work well with analogies and metaphors. You need
Mhm.
to like
Mhm.
show someone something, be like, here's Kowloon Walled City, and that's kind of like your revenue infrastructure. They can make the connection quicker.
Yeah.
I love, like myths. I love Joseph Campbell. I love like, Greek, Norse mythology,
Yeah,
all that stuff.
Campbell, yeah.
Great way to understand ourselves, the hero's journey, whatever it is. And I
Yeah, there
feel
you go, the hero's journey is what I was
it,
looking for.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really great way to like just the return. You're in the thing. You start off and then you go and you're
Yes.
like, oh, here we go. People understand that because it's such a it's human
Yeah.
expression and feeling. And I think if you can share that, that's what I'm trying to do. Is like
Yeah.
this is like a
Well,
human.
here's where it's sucking with AI.
Yeah,
Someone thinks, "Oh, I've got a hot take or I've got an interesting photo, and now I need a story, and now I need to tie it into my industry."
yeah,
And that's literally what you can call it Mad Libs or slop is what we're calling it.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
yours always felt human, which is why I liked because you
Thank you.
commented on my comments. I spend a lot of time commenting as part of my
Yeah,
LinkedIn strategy,
sure, sure.
but
Yeah,
like I mean them, and it's so much easier when it's a real story.
absolutely.
So do you feel like you're combating that, or do you just have observations about how fake it is, or do you just
Yeah.
naturally write this way and it's
I'm
like the
just trying to
best
be
time ever to be a
myself.
natural
That's
writer?
just what I
Yeah.
am, and, like, I mean, we all can, like, use AI to help I use it as a foil to refine my thinking. I call it a thought partner, right? I use, like, Claude just to, like, talk through. Is like, "That a good idea?" And, like, I don't know, and, like, "All right, let me take
Yeah.
a that."
I do
So,
that all the time.
it's really just, like, I'm trying to understand it myself, and I think the process of me understanding all of this stuff, the world we're in now, not just go to market and RevOps, but everything, is
Mhm.
I'm figuring it out as I go, and I just want to share it. Like that's all we're trying to do. Like we're trying to do here. We're trying to figure out the mess that we're in. It's
Yeah,
good and
yeah.
bad. So
What do you think then AI at large,
mm,
let's see if we can unpack this a tiny bit.
yep.
From an architect's perspective, with all the solutions getting launched out there, what is sturdy and strong and sound? And then what would you tell your target demographic or companies to just sort of like let this mature a little bit more, or stay away from this, or come get a second opinion?
Yeah, I'm always gonna double down on the foundations, like, again, the stuff that I see, the main stack for the stuff that I deal with, right? The CRM, the marketing
Mm,
automation platform, the web infrastructure, the website, DNS, all that stuff, domain, and then integrations, and then people. Always invest in those things, right? Those are 6 buckets
yeah,
or so, but they're the things that keep coming back up, you know? And then within that, there's all those little ancillary things you can add on and auxiliary pieces you can
yeah,
add on. And just use them if you like, what are you trying to solve? Like, you can start so simple, like, what are you actually trying to solve? I've had friends say, "Oh, I need the CRM to do this and that." Like, "What, do you have a lead problem right now?" Like, "Actually, I don't have any
yeah.
leads, but I need a CRM." You're like, "You don't need a CRM, you need to get a better method for outbound," like, so you just
Yeah, yeah,
know, like, what you're trying to do, and I don't think people have that conversation with themselves, and I
yeah.
feel like that's really my job, is to have that conversation. So I'd start
Is
there.
there, you know what? So speaking of conversations, I see a lot of these founders having conversations with AI, and some are good, and then some are misusing it. What kind of coaching would you give to them to say, okay, there's nothing wrong with cloud, there's nothing wrong with chat, but like when you sit down, ask it this instead. Like how would you lead them to have these conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I would say first talk to it like you would talk to, like, we're talking, instead of this
Yeah.
idea, like, the beginning people were like, "Oh, you gotta figure out the one-shot prompt." Like, I never even used.
Yeah, I'm so happy prompt engineering fell away as
Yeah,
fast as it
me too.
did, but also the
Yeah,
natural language really caught up. But let me reframe that. So like they'll sit down, one of these guys will sit down and they open chat and they're like,
yep,
what is the best CRM to do X? But like
right.
that, you skipped a bunch, right? So how would you redirect that owner
It loves
who's just
context.
trying to make $1 million
Yeah.
this
So,
year?
like, I think the thing that people don't get with, just take LLMs, like, they don't realize that it thrives on context, and it wants to learn about you and your
Mm,
business. So, like, literally dump in all of your stuff you
mm-hmm.
can, let it
Mm-hmm.
learn. The funny thing is, a lot of these companies, like, you have these, I mean, the ICP is so important, right? And a lot of
Mm.
companies don't even know what their ICP is, because I call it the ICP.
Yeah, or they do, but they don't want it to be who they know it
Yeah,
is. I
exactly,
see that. It's
but that's
weird.
the
Yeah.
thing that it needs to learn. So, "Okay, I got a better snapshot for you, and this is our primary motion, and this is what we're doing, and this has worked in the past, and this is, like,
Yeah.
our top 100 accounts." You give it all that information and then say, "Now we're gonna ask a more specific question
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
what do we want for a CRM, or what's a blind spot?" I mean, it's really good with that, and then you take it or leave it, do the research on your own with what it suggests.
You do
Ideally,
have to go counter research.
yeah,
Yeah.
and talk to somebody like you or I, who has been
Yeah.
in it for so long, and be like, "That's a good idea, but here's the thing that it's not seeing," because it misses so much, right?
Yeah.
LLMs miss so much. That's why you
Yeah,
still.
well, so do they, I've I hate saying I've argued with the machine, but sometimes I've
I have to.
argued with it. Like, why do you have this bias to want to steer me to XYZ? And it's almost like it's looking for the fastest way to
Yeah.
get you to just be like, "Oh, that's a great
Real
answer."
quick, did you notice that with Notion? There was that period where ChatGPT was trying to get you on Notion all the time. Everything you would do,
Interesting.
I found it. Maybe that was just the algorithm found me, and it was like, "Go to Notion."
No, well, it was like it
Yeah.
would say, "Would you like us to craft this for like to make a whatever ready
Yeah.
something?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, no, I know, and you can argue with it. I think it wants pushback. I think you gotta just be careful if you're in an echo chamber, though, with it.
That's
That's why
right.
you have to go and talk to other people and be like,
It almost knows me. A first benefit was like, oh, it knows me so well.
"Yeah,
Now my particular chat instance does know me so well that sometimes I'm like, I need to go ask this in a place that doesn't have as much
yeah."
context about me,
I mean,
because
especially
it'll
with.
like deliver exactly what I want to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly use Claude now, because that persistence memory is, like, insane now, and it remembers other
Yeah,
threads. You're like, "Wow." But, yeah, I mean, you gotta just know, like, what the goal is, and I mean, you can just sit around and be entertained by just
that's right.
being a little sycophantic to you, and be like, "Oh, that's a great idea, Chad," or, "That's a great idea, Tyson." You just,
Yeah,
what are you trying to do? And you can just get caught up having that conversation. You gotta have a goal?
yeah. I'd actually ask it. I'd encourage more people to ask it questions that you're scared to hear the answer to. So
That's a good
like
way to put it.
the flip side of the flip side of what should I do next, I dumped like 9 years of journal entries into it. I know everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my God, your data's out there." I'm like, "Listen, people, your data's out there since the moment a camera's been on a
Yes, I
phone. So
know, right?
like, you
Exactly.
guys are
Yeah.
smoked anyway."
Sorry, Big
But
Brother already knows. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, but like the first question is like, what's the quickest way for me to make 100,000 a month? And then like you're going through that. But then I had to ask myself after a while. I said, what is the hard thing that I'm avoiding in all of my follow-ups?
That's a better question.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so then it was like you got to do sales and outreach. And I was like, dang it, like
So, perfect example. I love what you just said. My strengths. I love the Clifton Strengths Finder. Have you ever done this? Have you ever taken
no,
that?
that sounds great though.
It's a fantastic personality assessment. I live by it, right? You have these buckets of like execution, strategy, influencing,
Mm,
relationship building. We're all sort of parts of that, right? I'm
mm,
all execution and strategy. So
yeah,
influencing, which is like lead generation and having conversations, is tough for me,
hmm,
right? I want to
yeah,
just
I
do the
hate it.
work. You probably want to just
That's
do the
right.
work too.
No,
But
I
that's the
solve
way.
all the problems on the sales call. People have called it out. I've talked to sales coaches. I'm like, I'll have a 30-minute phone call with you. I'm like, here you go. Go get these three
No,
things for 99
that's
bucks a
why
month. You're
I think
done.
that's why we're simpatico, man, is because that is what I do too, and I've had to catch myself because I'm like, oh, have you not done that? Like, just do, and they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, literally just flip this switch and that will solve that, and you have to like
I'll
catch.
go to my wife in the kitchen later. I know this is bemoaning. People are like, what's the matter with these guys? But I'm like, babe, I just like, I'm doing all this for free. Why doesn't he pay me 5 grand a month? It's like, I've never asked for 5 grand a month. That's
Yeah,
why.
that's why we should talk after this call sometime because I that's the
Yeah,
path
for
I've been
sure.
on, and there are ways to do it better
Yeah,
than others. But I do think you got to play your strengths. I think that's one.
yeah,
And but every now and then you got to do the thing, especially if you want to run your own business. You got to do the stuff that
yeah.
you don't really want to do, you know?
Yeah,
And
it's not glitz and glam.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
tough.
You
Anyway,
can.
Tyson, this has been amazing.
Yep.
I've loved it so much. We got to do it again. Tell everyone where they can find you, what the company is, who you want to
Sure.
serve, how they can get in touch with
Tyson
you, best way
Parody.
to
You
get
can
started
find
with
me
you.
on LinkedIn, and I can share the link if you need. Easy to find. I think I'm the only Tyson Parody out there.
Yeah, we're
Uh,
gonna put it in the show notes,
yeah.
the
Okay. Great.
LinkedIn
And
link also.
that's where the best place to find me. You can book a call with me if you want. Have a chat. Send me a DM. Whatever. That's all I got right now because I really haven't invested in the rest. But
It's the best so
yeah.
far. It's so
Great.
good. We
Um,
could talk a whole other hour about that, but if listen, all you professionals out there, if you're not actually using LinkedIn right now,
yeah.
it's just
You're
crushing.
still
It's
missing. And you,
crushing.
the
It's
algorithm
so
has
good.
changed, but it doesn't matter. It's the biggest
It's
place to
still the
work.
human voice is ringing out and
Yeah.
more
Totally.
than any other. I mean, I do run paid ads. I can run them. You get noise, but like
Yeah.
the organic, everything else is bearing you except LinkedIn if you're talking
Awesome.
for real. So it's so
It's
good.
awesome.
All right, thank you everybody. If you made it this far, you like this show, I want you to hit like and subscribe for us, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, Tyson. Appreciate it.
Thank you.